Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Sunday Podcast, presented by sportsshoes.com. I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
This podcast is all about elite distance running in the UK.
We're here to give you all the latest news updates around the sport,
as well as weekly interviews with athletes and coaches.
Stay up to date by following us on Instagram and X at Sunday Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel too, where we post athlete workout videos, shoe reviews and more.
Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Right, welcome back everyone. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday long runs if you're out for one. Well, Matt, you won't be tomorrow, will you, mate? You got a little on a little trip, aren't you? So no long run this Sunday.
On a works trip, mate. I am indeed. At Switzerland, Freeport, and got an exciting meet tomorrow. By the time you're listening, obviously it'd be Sunday anyway. But track lab, and there's been lots of talk about events changing over the next few years, and they're going to be implemented, and it's going to be rolled out. So by the time next week's podcast comes out, you probably would have seen it. I'll be able to kind of talk more on it, but I think going into it, pretty excited. Had the draw tonight. Basically just trialing new formats in the sport. I think the field events are, I think the problem that we've got in this sport with field events is they're just so long. And I think Mondo is almost like highlighting this even more, the way that he keeps jumping world records for one, and he jumps a world record 3 hours after the competition starts, because everyone needs to get knocked out of the competition because they're nowhere near as good as him. And then obviously he needs to wait for that bar to just go up and up and up. And it's kind of the same with the high jump and everything like that as well. So basically with the pole vault, they're just going to take your height off the floor, so your highest point. And they're going to have a bar there just for psychological reasons, just for people to, I guess, have been used to jumping the bar so much. But it doesn't matter if you clear the bar. As such, it's more how far you go over it. And I think that'll be interesting. I think it will mean that certainly from a world record angle, people like Mondo can't keep just bumping the bar up 1 centimeter every, and he's 3 world records in 2024 already. And so I think, again, what would you say?
Puma will be pleased.
Yeah. Puma, water flakes. But I think, again, it's just like it's actually who can just jump the highest, instead of kind of like who can jump high but also navigate getting over this bar, because they're just going to have the bar at a couple different set heights. So I think, there's the pole vault changes. The long jump, we know they're going to have that 40 centimeter takeoff zone. The sprints, they're going to reduce the reaction time down to just 0.0 instead of your 0.1, and then saying like humans can't react that quick. So I think there will be a bit of anticipation there. Steeple mile, obviously you've got that to look forward to. And then in the javelin, they're just basically going to not measure. They're only going to measure your longest throw. So after round 1, they're only going to bother measuring it if it looks like it's longer than a previous throw, which again, all of these ideas are just literally coming from how can we speed up these competitions. And I think the bigger changes are in the field events, because I think they are the competitions which are very long. Races are races, aren't they? So, and obviously, got the steeple mile, but that's already happened at Italy Road back in May. So yeah, man, I'll keep you posted. But it's team focused. There's 6 captains. They had a bit of an FA Cup draw tonight, and they sort of, all the names are in the event pots, and picked out who was going to be on their team and stuff. And from what I've seen, the athletes are pretty excited. I think it's new, and although it's just literally the first time that they're trialing something like this, I do think it has the scope to be built on. Whether these teams, we've always said, whether these teams turn into brands, Puma, Adidas, Nike, or whether they, have superficial names for the sake of tomorrow, it's just red, yellow, green, blue and black, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think, watch this space. And I hope you watch the meet if you are listening now. But that's where I am.
Yeah, it should be good, mate. Is the do you know if the coverage is like, in terms of if they're shortening the long jump, say, is it just long jump on at that time and no running event? Is that?
Yeah, so good shout. It'll be a normal track and field format, where you sort of flick in between long jump and track events and stuff like that. So, but there's going to be, I think it's 8 different events going on tomorrow, and the whole thing's going to be done and dusted in 90 minutes. And so it's kind of falling into that window, which what Athletics have previously said they want kind of all their meets to, I mean, Diamond League's 2 hours at the moment. They basically want to condense it down. Can they make it 90 minutes as well? So
Yeah,
yeah.
Diamond League's tough watch, mate. It's a tough 2 hours. I think anyway, for me, like even at 2 hours, it's too long. But hey, we're moving in the right direction, aren't we? Let's get into the Diamond League then, mate. Obviously, we'll chat about Rome, but I think we got to chat about Jakob first because it's been a hell of a week. And that seems like an age ago.
Doesn't it just, man? I mean, it's just scary. Scary. I mean, like I said, 7-17. We thought Combs' record wouldn't be beat. If one man's going to do it, it's Jakob. And I think it just puts into perspective, though, just how, I mean, we watched it. He did piss up that 5K in the Olympics. And like the fact that, he was racing guys who have run in the 12:30s and low 12:40s and stuff. And he made a mockery of it. And I think, he's just showing it there. And look, we're starting to allude to the fact that we just don't, he's stubborn. He will still compete in the 1500, but he's not so much a 1500 runner, not a championship 1500 runner anyway. And I think we said that on the last podcast. He's so good at winning races from the front because his 3000 proved that again. Um, but championship, different ball game. But I think it is scary. I think now we can only imagine what he could do over the 5000. Whether we see the 5000 record this year, who knows? I don't think we will. Don't think the races line up today because he's got the matchup in Zurich against like Kerr, Hocker, and the Goose again in the 15, and then presume he'll be doing a Diamond League final in the 15. So I'm not sure his races will match up, but yeah, I mean he's on about getting steeple world record, mile 1500 world record as well, mile record, all these sorts of things. I would love to see him in a steeple. I really, really would.
Yeah, I wonder how his hurdling is because obviously he went to the World Juniors in a steeple. His first major was a steeple as well. He went to Worlds, I believe, in
Yeah, 2017 Worlds did
London.
ran the
Yeah.
heats, fell over in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Euro Juniors he won steeple. So like, and from what I remember, his hurdling wasn't shabby. It was pretty good.
No.
He wouldn't have worked on it for a while, but he's just so goddamn fit and like 7-17, even if he's a bad hurdler and he has a 35-second conversion, you're still low 750s. So he's still looking at that world record in the steeple. So I think out of all the events, the 5000 I think is really bloody hard. I think that gets a little bit underrated. But the 10 as well, we don't know what he could do over the 10. I don't think he's running, I mean, 26:11 is it off the top of my head, but the steeple, I honestly feel like he has a better chance of doing that than the 1500.
For me, I think it would take a few races, and I don't think he'll ever commit to that. Maybe if he did a season of steeples, I think yeah, maybe he gets it. I don't think the guy does it in like running one-off steeples. I think that's putting too much disrespect on that time.
No, it is.
No matter
But
how good your 3K is.
no, no, it is. But he has done the event before. He's got,
Yeah, 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 but not at a world class level. Fine, he made a world championships, but how many people can we say
yeah,
that about?
2017, his standard was slow
So
too. But I think, man, I'm pretty sure his PB is like 8:26 or something. And at that
that's what I
point,
mean.
yeah, but mate, like he's so strong. Like one of the things you need for steeple is just that utter leg strength, and he has it. He's kind of proven on the cross as well, like how strong he is. So I've actually just got like no doubts that he can actually cope with barriers. He might be a little bit rusty on the jumps, and yeah, he might need to do a couple, but like he's been like trying to smash that 1500 for a while now. He'll continue to.
Mm.
Whether that will just escape him, but I do think he's got a very, very strong chance of breaking the steeple world record if he took it seriously and if he did it. Because you look at guys like Jordy Beamish and stuff like Jakob absolutely annihilates that guy.
Yeah,
He's an 8-0 guy. So
yeah. We will see. Time will tell. Yeah, I think I'd love to see him in a championship 10K to be honest. See how he fares with
So would I, man.
yeah, but look, I'm sure we will. I think that's the thing with Jakob. He's still so young. I think we will get that side of him. I almost think had he won that 15 in Paris, we might have seen him go earlier to kind of explore these new events a bit more. But I think that's still gonna it's gonna bug him too much. I think it will seem like he's given up if he
Yeah, never do it. He's super stubborn. So, um,
and
but I
quite
think,
right too. I think anyway. Had he won in Paris, I think yeah, you can say it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say, I think there's world records that he could get before he gets the 1500 world record. I think that might sound stupid considering he's like what, zero point 0.8 of a second, zero point 0.7 a second off the 1500 world record. But I just think that world record is just so hard, and even that zero point 0.7, zero point 0.8 of a second is pretty far. Whereas like, yeah, did a few steeples, got set up in a really, really good 5K. I mean, confident he could probably do that as well. 10K. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe a few more years for that one, but yeah. There's my take. There's my take. It was fantastic. And the Lausanne Diamond League, by the way, was just a fantastic Diamond League.
yeah, Rome,
Also,
not so much. Then obviously you went down last night as we were recording. It was okay, mate, wasn't it? But I guess what we might expect from a Diamond League at this time of year. Obviously the women's steeplechase, probably the highlight of the night. Yavi with a world lead and just off the world record herself, the Olympic champ. But I think left a lot out there, didn't they? I think they had a real opportunity to get that world record.
yeah, and it was just men's 5K was similar. Like they go off with serious intent, they start attacking it, and it just gets to a crucial point, and they just started slowing down. And the same with the, almost like getting ready for that kick. Same in the men's 5K. And you just, I said last week, didn't I? If you're going to break records, you've got to be able to grind that. You basically just got to be prepared to go solo. If you're the one in shape, you got to be prepared to go solo and attack that record. They're kind of 3, 4 laps out. You can't let it slip. And or you need to work together. And in the men's five, they just did not do that whatsoever. I thought they were going to, because I
Mhm.
thought Kajelcha, Aragawi, like Geburet, these are all Ethiopian guys. I thought they were going to work together, but yeah, they didn't. And poor Aragawi, sets the race up, just getting to that crunch point where it needs a bit of help. No one interested.
Mm. I
Same with
actually think it would have been a great race for Jakob that because there were so many of them that were kind of there or thereabouts for a long time that had he then pushed it on, they're obviously not going to let him drop them. And then he'd have had people to kind of kick away from come the later laps.
yeah, I mean, yeah, how do you race that 5,000? I think yeah, he could have done something pretty special as well. Yeah, you're probably right there. Obviously, had he not have had Luzanne in his legs and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah. I
but
just mean the race itself. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Of course,
yeah.
with Jakob, he could just be a 2 mile 3,000 specialist. He could literally be the Daniel Komen of this generation, and maybe he is that.
I don't think you call an Olympic champ a 3K specialist. That's the regard we hold Jakob in, though, isn't it? That we talk about him being a 3K specialist. Yeah, he's had Olympic champs in the in the five. So
And the 15, and he's
yeah,
got multiple world medals and world gold over the five as well. So, but yeah, Rome Diamond League, pretty. It was all right, wasn't it? It was nothing to really report. Yeah, men's 5,000, women's steeple, and women's 1,500. Kipyegon just kind of did Kipyegon things, went off hard. Again, you could just tell wasn't really feeling it. Couple laps in, decided she just back off a little bit and still runs 3:52, which is just insane. But and again. 12 women running sub 4 minutes. And this is like, well, we wouldn't call it a B-rate Diamond League, but there's quite a few women missing from this Diamond League. So it's just like
yeah.
women's 15 continues to impress. Yep, Rev A 3:58 as well. It's just second of her PB. Which is kind of good consistent form from her. But yeah, that was pretty much it from the Rome Diamond League, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it, mate. And then on to kind of some news at home. Steve Vernon has stepped down from his kind of
Ooh.
head of endurance role with British Athletics. I guess it's been a bit of a rocky season, hasn't it, for anyone involved in UK, I'm sure. We don't have too much info on this, but rumor has it he's going to carry on coaching Laura Muir. And that might mean a return to his previous kind of job type, I would say.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Yeah, we haven't spoke to the guy or anything like that, so we're only
We're speculating.
speculating. Yeah, we're talking amongst ourselves. But I think I look, what does it say about UK that so many people resign from that organization as well? Like that was the first thing which like I was just thinking of when I saw this news. I was just like, mate, I don't even know how many people have resigned from this organization in the last few years. I think it must just be one hell of a miserable place to work. Um, on top of that, Vernon, like I think it was a very sticky situation once he started coaching me. I think Vernon, to be fair, he just strikes me as someone who is just a coach at heart. And I think if you are a coach at heart, that position is just not for you because it's not coaching. You're not allowed to coach. But also, I feel like if you are a coach, like you kind of just naturally you would have your kind of opinions on certain athletes, and he is someone who has worked with too many athletes in the sport, I think, to be doing a role like that as well. Like he's got too many relationships, from a coaching perspective as well. I think someone needs to do that role who is just purely happy to facilitate. And yes, on training camps, you might be holding a stopwatch and you might be carrying athletes' bags and organizing whatever else you need to organize for them. But yeah, I think going down the route of hiring coaches for that role, it doesn't really make sense because it's not a coaching role, is it?
I get what you're saying, mate, but it must be so hard because say this happens the other way and they hire someone who is kind of like got management experience in like high performance sport from somewhere else. What's everyone going to say? They're going to be like, oh, yeah, but they haven't done it.
You
They
don't know
haven't
what you're
worked
doing.
with athletes
Yeah,
at that
yeah, yeah.
level. And there's always going to be an argument for both ways and people are always going to complain. I think. I think what you say about people like resigning from UK, I think it's a shame because I think we've seen some great names, I guess, from our sport who have done great things for our sport, like Vernon being one of them, kind of just being on the circuit as an athlete, and obviously he's coached some great athletes as well. I'm sure, and again, this is us kind of speculating, but I'm sure he kind of went to UKA thinking, oh yeah, it's a great opportunity for me to kind of change some of the things that as a coach he probably used to get annoyed with about UKA, and I would imagine like going into the organization and then having one of these great jobs or seemingly great jobs in terms of title, and then realizing that, oh, actually, I'm still kind of faced with the same barriers that I was faced with on the outside must be so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he could do much, could he? I think his hands were tied. But
But look,
but
we'll
yeah,
try to get him on a pod. We'll
yeah.
try we'll reach out to Steve and try and
But
get
you
his
say about
yeah.
you say about and I do think people would be like, oh, if someone was in that role who didn't really have coaching experience, they'd be like, they don't know what they're doing. But I think someone needs to be in that role who just completely doesn't have any relationships with athletes in the sport. Because I think you need to be able to you need to be able to Billy Bean it, just like cut ties quick, get excited about athletes quick as well, and kind of just take these exec decisions
But
that
that's
need to
what a
be
lot of other
made.
sports do. They get high performance like managers in from other sports, for example. So someone like Steve Irwin might go
Yeah,
do it for cycling, for
yeah,
example. And
yeah.
but then they get then they get a lot of like backlash for kind of not knowing the kind of
It is a
language.
bit of it, yeah. I guess it is a bit of a lose-lose role, isn't it? Like not much can be done. But I then just start to think, do we even need like do we even need that person? Is this job necessary? Because just think about it for a second. Think of the Olympic Games, right? Every athlete has their coach at the Olympic Games, pretty much. okay, support staff are needed to, get athletes to and from training, carry their bags, but like athletes survive without these people 99% of the year. Maybe on the odd altitude camp, which by the way, they're perfectly okay to go on their own with their normal setup, and their normal coaches, just how they've been surviving. I'm just like, yeah, are these like what do these people do? They just told us stop watching Pace on a Bike and maybe but I know like when we spoke to Barry Fudge, he was heavily involved in Farah and the data and everything like that and mapping out that program. And I guess Vernon would have been doing something similar. Chris Jones kind of does, deals with the numbers a lot as well. But I am just like, yeah, UK, like, I just don't know how important that role is, but maybe athletes at the top will say, no, it's absolutely necessary. We would not have survived without a head of endurance. But
Yeah, I guess it's for those instances where maybe where it's not going well, where actually say you're with a maybe a foreign coach, for example, and you're struggling, but you're still thinking, oh, I need to go to this Olympics next year, for example, and who can they actually pick up the phone and talk to, or kind of get to kind of give them a bit of an overview about their, I guess, their career, their training, etc. I guess, look, the athletes like you mentioned, they have kind of support teams already. I guess athletes like Keely Hodgkinson, for example, they probably don't make use of. I don't know. They probably don't make use of some of these things, but I'm sure there's some other athletes who are still like serious championship contenders who do. I mean, obviously Laura Muir went over to Steve Vernon, and I'm sure that was as a result of
course.
reaching out to him in that capacity first, and then it obviously progressed into something else. So
Course, but then my argument to that is we had Phil Norman on the podcast and he didn't hear a word from these people. These people are supposed to be head of endurance. So, I just think, they're dealing with people that they want to deal with and they're not. And this is why I'm saying it's very hard to employ someone who's had coaching experience in this country because I think there's just an element of bias. But look, it's going to be interesting to see who takes this role on. What's going to happen? Steve Verner back to New Balance Manchester. That's probably the most likely bet at the moment. Maybe him and Helen Clitheroe do a straight swap. Who
yeah,
knows?
but then obviously, like, yeah, I guess he's not going to take Helen just out of that role, is he? So
Well, I think Helen's done a pretty stellar job, to be
mm,
honest. Like, Nuttall's improved drastically. Westies continues to dominate. He's running faster than he ever has over 5,000. He's getting back to his best over 1,500 as well. So, yeah, and obviously Kieran McKean's got injured this year, but I would say, yeah, Clitheroe like has done a great job with those athletes. So if she does kind of lose that job because Vernon now wants to go back to it. Or one thing I would say, you only resign if you've got something lined up. So,
mm.
he's not twiddling his thumbs. He's moving somewhere.
But if it's New Balance again, they're big enough company to kind of have another group or make the group bigger to incorporate two coaches, or it might be a different brand. We don't know, to be fair. But I guess our speculation is, yeah, he will continue. We think, yeah, he's probably most likely to continue coaching Muir. And if you'll continue to coach Muir, you're probably in some kind of full-time coaching role in some capacity. And we don't think that's going to be with British Athletics. So we're thinking, yeah, it's likely to be a brand, right?
Yeah. Yep. Talking to coaches as well, mate. Mike Smith announcing that he's gonna go pro. So and
Cool, that'll be it. Vernon to the NCAA, mate.
well, from the Coffee Club podcast, they're very much in the know when it comes to, I guess, American movements. And it sounds like Mike Smith's gonna head up the a night program in Flagstaff and have a load of athletes in his group. So Oregon Project is obviously it won't be called that, but it kind of seems like they want to build something like that, build another Bowen because yeah, Nike at the moment don't really have a presence in distance running from a team standpoint.
Now they tried to make the pink BTC vest to try and stand out, but that's not
What is
worked.
that, by the way?
Oh, it's
That is
awful, isn't it? Bauman used to be one of the best kits, and
yeah,
they've
that does,
yeah.
even the design team's been reduced or
Mm.
fractioned. Yeah, they've made an absolute mare of it. I seriously think as well the Baumas just still didn't capitalize on like their kit and stash enough. Like I know they made vests and stuff, but they should have done they had a real like for a couple years, people were obsessed with them.
Mm.
They could have really kind of, built on that. A little bit like NN had done. And I think NN have been like, right, because they were just a little bit after Bauman when Bauman was in its absolute heyday, I
Yeah.
think. And then we're more like 2020s, whereas like Bauman were like 2019, 2018, 2019, sort of when they were, I think about Jaeger and stuff when he was like in his prime, like 2016, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, man. Anyway, rambling, mate. Yeah, Bernie steps down. That is, yeah. So, I mean, watch this space. I'm sure we'll hear things very, very soon indeed. Um, World Juniors going down. Ava Lloyd. Honestly, mate, I watched the Heat. We had her on the podcast. She dominated, and by the time you're listening, the results done. So I might be eating my words, but she looked phenomenal in the Heat. She really did, putting away Ethiopians and Kenyans. So I think she gets a medal at the least.
Yeah, fingers crossed she does.
Cross.
That race going down in what, a few hours?
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I think I might throw it up now once we get off this podcast because I was watching the men's 800 last night as well. Peyton Craig, Australian, got second, and Ethiopian ladder Yansa won it. But I do love the World Juniors. It's just pure like, yeah, just unpredictable drama basically. But one thing I would say is, by the way, Bird, British 3,000 meter runner, he did so well to get third, which is just like Edward to get third in the World Juniors over 3,000. Like that is Norwegian fella won it, by the way, people. So Norway have a young up and coming 3,000, 5,000 runner. Um, but I remember like the Kenyans and Ethiopians used to absolutely Ugandans and stuff used to absolutely destroy that event. Like they would be silly. They'd be out there running. I remember when I watched my brother at World Juniors, they were running 7:45 for 3,000. I'm
Mm.
not sure that I think the World Junior level has kind of stepped back a little bit. It doesn't seem as strong as it once was. I mean, Conseslus won the steeple in like 8:10 as a
I think,
world as a junior.
yeah, I think now they just progress a lot quicker because it used to be you'd kind of, I don't know, they might win World Juniors on the track. You'd see them in a World Junior cross country, right? And then next thing you know, they're in the front of an Olympic final.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or they're winning a world cross on a senior stage, for example, or right up there anyway. Whereas I
Yeah.
guess now they're just going straight through. They're like, I'm ready to
Yeah.
go. Get me in a diamond league, like get me that paycheck.
Yeah, like that 17-year-old Mahari, the Ethiopian, he was running through Ethiopia in the Olympics, wasn't he? So he's not fussed with the World Juniors. Like I guess probably a difficult year for World Juniors actually with the Olympics because there were quite a few youngsters who went to the Olympic Games. So yeah, but one thing I also want to say is QT Britain's 1500 meter man, by the way, Virginia Tech as well. So he's another athlete coached by Ben Thomas. And he looked very good in his heat. Final also tonight. I think we could have two medalists in the 1500, mate. That's what I'm saying.
I guess it just all filters down, doesn't it, mate? Look at our senior athletes, and there's no surprise that we are competing on a world junior level. You look at the likes of Georgia Bell, Laura Muir, Josh Kerr, Jake Whiteman. Why wouldn't our junior athletes be kind of doing the same and following in their footsteps?
Yeah, and one thing I would say is it's good for these athletes because if you can perform on a world on a world junior level, they are going to get, if they medal, they're going to get quite big sponsorships. They're going to get quite big deals, which is brilliant because it then sets them up for that sort of 19, 20, 21, 22, that sort of next 4 years. Basically, they could be setting themselves up for the 4 year cycle to LA. And I think that's pretty important. That's crucial.
Yeah, yeah. You make a good point, mate. And as we know, if you're in a good position now, rather than kind of worrying about finances, setups, and stuff, yeah, they can easily make sure they're kind of right there in LA rather than just kind of trying to just make the team. They can make sure they're a real contender.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I just looked at the timetable. They're not racing till midnight, so probably won't catch that. But I'll watch it in the morning. Great North Run, Elite Fields, and obviously that's coming back next week. Obviously, big half that will take place. Anish Colga's doing it. That'll be interesting to see how she runs. Jack Rowe on the men's side. Sessman's doing it as well. But yeah, I mean, Great North, mate, Mark Scott, and then we got some cracking guests. Aragawi, can't wait to see him. Evans Chibet, by the way, he won Boston and New York. Lemma as well. Obviously, he was due to do the marathon. All out that, but he's another Boston Marathon champion. Kipchumba as well. New York half marathon. That is an absolute stellar cast in the men's race, by the way. I mean, four of those guys and Mark Scott. Nothing against Mark Scott, but I'm not sure he's good. It'd be great if he could live with these guys. Let's see what sort of shape he's in.
That's it, mate. I'm excited to see him go because I think he's had a bit of a tough time since obviously leaving. I guess even leaving Bauman, really. He's kind of had a bit of a tough time. I think we thought, oh, he's gone to NA and it's all going to go plain sailing. You think that's okay. I mean, he wants to transition to the marathon and he's done it in the best way possible on paper. But he's struggled a bit with that. So I just hope we can
That's
see him,
yeah.
see him
Yeah,
perform.
and I think it's just been a big change for him as well. And I think a lot of athletes go through it, right? Like, he's had a baby, he's moved back to the UK, he's then moved house as well, like, and not just house, but like moved areas where he's based in the UK as well. So he's kind of hasn't had too much of a group at any one point. He's obviously changed coaches, we know that. And so I think the last 12 to 18 months for him, there's been a lot of change. And I think he's finally now pretty settled. So I think actually we're gonna see a lot more from him in the last 12 months, providing he can stay injury free.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. And I guess you mentioned kind of guest athletes in the Great North Run in terms of foreign athletes in this British Trials race. But mate, we've got some cracking guests coming up as well, don't we, on the pod?
We do indeed, mate. We do indeed. What do you want me to say here, mate? What am I allowed to say? What am I
Oh,
not?
I think we can say it, mate. So obviously, Cathal Doyle this week, as you can see from the title, but we did also catch up with Mr. Caress post Paris the other day. So that'll be coming next weekend. And mate, I think it's okay to make a little announcement for the people that listen in. We don't have to put on Instagram, but in terms of upcoming races. Emil will be running the national cross country champs.
Well,
Uh,
he said, man, he didn't say 100%, but he said he was thinking about doing that. Yeah,
I
he's
think he said.
entered.
I think he said he'll be running.
Yeah, I think he said as long as I mean he had 2 weeks off and stuff, but I think he will. I think him and Mark will have a matchup. I hope Mark bounces off Great North Run quite well. It's going to be a clash of the ages. Mark's got to be a Milk Crest National Cross. So there you are. But mate, we're there. Women's Great North Run, Phil, quickly.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. Getting too excited.
You are getting to McColgan, by the way, is down to double back. So I'm just like this girl is so injury prone, and then she's going to do two halves in a week. I don't get it. Anyway, I do get it, cashola. But
To be
hey,
fair, mate, she's training for a marathon, so she's got to do two back to back at some
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Quick
maybe I get
recovery,
it.
good training.
But I swear she's only just like it just sounds risky, but yeah, she knows what she's doing. She's, been one of the best in the game before. So um yeah, Vivian Cherritt's doing it, Mariana Gugi. The women's field's not quite as strong, to be fair, to Ferry, Alamu. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Cherritt is a Olympic medalist and whatnot, but I think she's a little bit past it these days. So yeah, that's the women's race. And yeah, like I say, we've got Cahill on and got Mill on in a couple of weeks. That was a good episode. I think as well, it's surprising, isn't it? Like we said to him, how like I personally didn't see many interviews from him like post games. Like I just didn't hear much. Like and it just always we were just like, how do you reckon he found it? Like, we want to know ins and outs and stuff. And I don't know, like were we just not paying attention? Because, he even admitted like, nah, he hasn't done much. And, Sesman as well, and like Mohammed, like I think the Olympics is one of these ones where the media focus on, because there's so many stories and so many different events, the media just focus on the real kind of medalists. And those who come further down the field, the media almost just neglect, and we really don't hear much from them about their experience. And I think that's what's special about this, the Cahal episode that we recorded as well. So I hope you enjoy that now. And the Emil one as well. And I think it just gives, you know, different perspectives as well. So, and
And I think for Cathal, obviously coming up next, like he spoke about how actually the even just the repertoire gave him publicity. And I think being from a kind of I think it's fair to well, it is fair to say a smaller nation like Ireland, that did get a bit more publicity for him versus kind of being in that massive GB team, multiple sports, and yeah, being kind of Emil Caress fourth place, which in the marathon is a ridiculous performance, like an unbelievable performance, gets overlooked to kind of the general public. So yeah, interesting how kind of how Cathal found it. Obviously, yeah, coming back in that repechage, and getting the opportunity to get a win on the Olympic stage, even though it's in the repechage round, you know.
I think that's literally what I was going to say. He won in that stadium in a
Yeah.
race in front of 80,000 people, 75,000 people. And I think that was pretty special for him.
Mm.
Yeah, he talks about it in great deal. One of the biggest takeaways for me was I don't know if it's sad or like just, but basically you need an agent in this game. And the way the sport's going with ranking points and races and running time and the way qualifying times are going, you need to get in the right races. Otherwise, you don't stand a chance. You need an agent. And he opens up and says it took him ages to get one. He was, he was in good shape last year. He just could never prove it. He could never get in these races. He was, having to do BMCs and stuff. And I think that's a bit sad in a way, but that's just where the sport is now. And I think if you are an athlete and you really want to kind of, you're on that kind of cusp. I mean, they all have agents anyway, they know this, but I think what's important is it's difficult to get one because if an agent's there with 5,000 meter runners and you're a 5K guy running 13:20, they're gonna go, sorry, mate, I can't have too many 5K guys, otherwise I can't get them all in the races, and I'm gonna have to prioritize certain ones. So that was the difficulty he had.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword for the sport, isn't it? Because I think some of the lore of athletics is the fact that you could go down to any meet, like you could go down to a BMC Grand Prix and run an Olympic time in the past. Whereas I think those times have got so quick now, which is obviously good for the sport. And the sport's become so professionalized that actually there are professional meets for athletes to go to and score loads of ranking points. But that is now really the only way to qualify. I guess the magic of like, I don't know, a British athlete winning the British champs and then going down to what he's on a Wednesday,
Not happening,
and
mate.
smashing the time. It's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah, 3:32, not happening. Women's 1500, same, not happening. You're not going running sub 4 in the BMC.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Today's episode. Enjoy, Cathal. I mean, is there anything else we need to wrap? The Zurich Diamond League, start this on out yet, but it's going to be absolutely stellar. We know they're going to have a great matchup with that men's 1500. Mondo and Warholm are going to go head to head in the 100 as well. Um, Lum, are you team Mondo or team Warholm?
Uh, well, in terms of who I support, or who I think will win.
Oh, mate, who you think will win? It's really tough, actually. I could see Warholm just tying up, making a bit of a hash of it, overstriding at the start.
Yeah.
I think Mondo might just be a bit more relaxed. He might, I think,
I think the pressure is on Warholm, right? Surely, like
I would
surely,
say so. To let a
surely the
pole vault,
pressure's
yeah.
gone. You know,
Yeah, like Warholm can still run like a 44, 400 and stuff.
like
Like,
you're an elite sprinter. I know it's the 400 hurdles,
yeah, yeah,
but you are
yeah.
an elite
No,
level
but he's
sprinter.
still running 44, which
Yeah,
means
that's what I
at
mean.
some
Yeah,
point he's running sub 11. He's running like 10.5 at some point in that race. Yeah, I think he probably does way more block start work, but yeah, I actually think Mondo might sneak him, man, and it's just going to be amazing publicity for him.
yeah,
His management have smashed it. I mean, he smashed it, but I think his management have smashed it as well.
yeah. Absolutely. Let's just hope there's no injuries, mate. I remember seeing the Lavillenie like got a like did his hamstring in a 4x1 at a league match for his for his French club one year. Um, I was like, unbelievable what he's turning out because it kind of just made me think of like SAL days. But the fact that yeah, you got like the Olympic champ getting himself injured in a league match, I was like, Jesus.
Mate, one thing we haven't mentioned, Parvesh Khan, Florida Gators, busted for EPO. This is crazy. I mean, I think we said a while ago that like the NCAA is getting so big, these nil deals are driving so much money into it now. Like athletes, if you're a 21-year-old, you're doing all you can to go to the NCAA because if you're a 335 man, you're earning money. Whereas if you're a 335 professional, ugh, you might be earning money. You might not. You'll be earning very little. And like, yeah, it's just an absolute no-brainer. And I think it is scary what people will be doing. And look, the sprinters have been up to dodgy stuff for a while in the NCAA, and I think the testing, I don't think it will ever get up to scratch. I mean, the testings, they struggle enough at the elite level, let alone the NCAA, where people can just, they coming from high school, they're coming from anywhere, transfers like anywhere. And I just think, yeah, that it's a big shock. And I mean, he was suspicious, maybe. You say about his kick and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, mate. And that's actually just
He
reminded me.
wasn't even that good, to be fair. He actually wasn't even that good. The fact he was taking EPO, like, it's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is. I'm pretty sure his
Yeah.
peak is 336.
Yeah. But I'm sure it's happening at multiple levels, you know. It's not just the very best that will kind of go that far or take those sorts of risks. But it made what you said reminded me of something I wanted to talk about actually just quickly. Not to do with drugs, just to kind of make sure we're not getting that kind of mixed up. But on the Neil deals and stuff, Texas Tech signed Solomon Kipchoge,
Yeah.
the 28-year-old with a half PB of 59:37. Like
Yeah, I've seen
I'm
that.
like, yeah, yeah, fair play. I mean, if the rules allow it, fair play to the school for getting it done, and fair play to the guy for getting himself a decent paycheck. You know, because if he was getting more from that than what he could get in a kind of your normal sponsorship, then fair enough. But mate, surely at some point they've got to kind of sort this out because for me, it's the fact that they put like an age clock on people who've done like bucks, right? Um, in terms of like you can't do a number
Right. Yeah.
of bucks meets
Yeah.
before you go over to the
Yeah.
NCAA because you consider to be too experienced in like collegiate athletics, right? But then
Yeah.
they'll let a 28-year-old Kenyan come in as a freshman, you know?
He's not 28.
Yeah, that's what I'm
No.
reading.
No.
Yeah,
What?
he is, mate.
I thought there was an age clock on these things.
No, I think it only starts once you like compete in the NCAA, right?
I could have sworn it was
Or
I could have sworn it was like 25 or something, man.
article I've got up now because I thought I'd fact check myself. It says 28 years old.
Yeah. The NCAA, mate, it's good in many ways. It's such a spectacle, but yeah, that's scary. Anyway, I wonder what's going to happen to this Khan guy. What's We need more on this, but also it doesn't look good for the Florida Gator program, to be honest with you. It
No,
doesn't.
not at
It
all.
actually doesn't look good, and like, yeah, he can probably get hold of this stuff himself. Like that's what we're assuming, but
But you don't know. You honestly don't know, do you?
yeah, not good. Anyway, someone's educated this guy on how to get it as
When
well. So,
someone's helping him, like whether it's from the
what I
university
mean,
or not, there's you're probably not doing that purely solo, right?
he needs to just come out and break the silence, tell his story, admit to it. That's what we need more of, by the way. I was reading an art. We're going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I was reading an article a little while ago about, it was a few years ago that happened, like 2010s or something like that. But This is basically how they busted Kipsang. They had like the drug testers were after this B. They basically busted this B-rate Kenyan at like some 10K road race in America, and he was like sweeping up like 5K every time he was doing it, and he was doping, right? And the drug testers like basically just pulled him in and just said, look, you're doping. We're gonna ban you. But we'd love for you to sort of inform for us and go and go undercover basically.
Mm.
And yeah, he agreed to do it. And yeah, they went undercover, and I think they halved his sentence or something, and they said, yeah, as long as you don't dope again, whatever. And then yeah, and he basically just managed to inform on the likes of like Kipsang and people like that, and so he helped that because they were after bigger fish, it's that old chestnut, and basically the guy who was heading up WADA or whoever it was at the time was basically just saying that's the only way we catch big fish. He
Yeah.
said like we haven't got the ability to catch them. He said that's the only way we can actually nail them. And I was like, wow, okay. This was a while ago. This was like, yeah, like I said, 2013, 2014 that this scenario happened, but it is one of the best way. He said it's the most successful way they have of catching high profile athletes.
Well, there you go. If you're listening, you got any dirt, just get in touch and we'll get on to anti-doping. So clean up the sport.
Enjoy Cathal.
Yeah, enjoy, Carl. Sorry for rambling on. I'll make sure the timestamps in the episode notes for don't want to. Well, it's a bit late for you now, but yeah, enjoy the episode, and we'll catch you very soon. Okay, first off, Carl, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, mate?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. I've listened to a few, so delighted to be on.
Good stuff, mate. Is your season done now? You've raced what once post Olympics, or have you got a couple more to go?
Yeah, I just actually got a text yesterday. I got into the fifth half mile, so I'm actually buzzing for that. So I'll keep it going till that, and that's the 8th of September. So not too far along away. So yeah, I'm gonna do the fifth half, and then I'll end it there definitely.
Geez, almost a bucket list race, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the like that was like I was just that was the only one I was really pushing for. I think I wanted to race a little bit more, but I raced there a few days ago in Finland and I was just bollocks like so.
Mm.
I kind of need a bit of a change and a bit of a something new like, and I think a road mile would be that. And yeah, it's a bucket list race. Yeah, everyone wants to run that. So, and I suppose I can spend a few days in New York after. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a big after party after that as well, isn't there, normally?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, John told me that as well. He was like, "Let's try and end the season there and enjoy the after party after." So yeah, I have heard about that as well. So, um, yeah, looking forward to it.
I think that brings us on to, next question is how hard is it to raise post-Olympic Games? Obviously, not something that you've been too experienced with, recently, considering this is kind of your first major global championships. I know you've represented Ireland on many occasions as well, but how difficult has it been?
Yeah, I probably underestimated it to be honest. We got back and I said I'm going to keep racing. Like I've just come off a PB. I'm obviously just going to come out and smash all the rest of the races. But I kind of figured out that was really not the case. I think you don't actually realize that until you probably go to race again. That that's actually there was a lot more mental energy wasted during while at the Olympics. But I suppose for the week of the Olympics as well, like after like you're kind of going out and enjoying yourself a bit. And even if you're not going out, you're just being around the village and just going to all the events. It's just so tiring. And then come home and like we had a big homecoming, which was sick. And like people are actually weirdly noticing you like out and about, like if you're on a run, and then just all that kind of stuff, and you're doing interviews and just doing all that kind of stuff. And then I didn't realize it was going to take as much out of me as it did. As I just found out, but I think I just wanted to delay the whole. Everyone talks about the post Olympic kind of come down, and I said, well, if I just keep the season going and just pretend that didn't happen, maybe I just escape it. But then that was just not the case because I don't know. It is a bit of a weird feeling. You just can't get yourself. Well, if I was in a diamond league now, you're like, okay, I can get up for that. But when like this small meet in the middle of nowhere, and it took you years to get there, it was like, oh, I need a break. I need to mix things up here, or it's my season's probably coming towards the end because the well definitely goes dry eventually, and it's probably starting to now.
Was training down during that period? Obviously finished the Olympics. Were your training sessions? Were you like, yeah, even though only a week's gone by and I was in the shape of my life, I'm nowhere near it, or was kind of training going well, so that's why you kind of had the hope of being able to maintain it?
It was actually decent enough. Actually, I did like a really good one last Tuesday with Dan, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm actually in good shape." Like, but I just feel like, or I'm pretty sharp still, but I just feel like when I went to just race, then it was just like there was just nothing in the legs. Um, but I think you can kind of, I suppose you can kind of wing train and yeah, what for the week after the when you get back, it is you're just so tired because I was just so sleep deprived for like so many days. But no, training was actually okay, but like I don't really take too much from training. Like I think sometimes I've had some pretty bad sessions, and then I come out and race well. So I feel like training wise, I don't really take too much from it. But it was fairly normal. Like I tried to keep it as
Mm.
normal as possible, but racing and training is just completely different for me anyway. So
Mm.
Yeah, you obviously mentioned as well kind of the feeling of going from racing in front of what Pack Stadium, Pack Stade de France, to kind of a low key meet. How different was the atmosphere kind of from your perspective?
yeah, like you go out from like going out to like whatever, I don't know how many seats were in France, but like on the 70, 80,000, and then you just rock up to another meet, a bronze meet, and it's like I don't know, there was probably about a couple of hundred there because it was windy and rain and it was not a nice night for it. So um yeah, it's probably so I'll probably it'd be fun. I think once you get racing again, probably next year you'd be kind of like the whole Olympic thing will be completely gone out of your system. But like it is just a bit different because it's almost like a cheat code when you race at the Olympics because you just get dragged around. Even the days that felt horrible, you're like, I'm not getting dropped or I'm not coming last in front of this many people. So like that almost like spurs you on a bit more. Um, but yeah, it is just hard to kind of you just go from like the cream of the crop to like way down the pecking order. But you're kind of hoping like off the back of that and going forward, I might be in a few more races that are a bit more like packed.
Mm.
But at this time of the year, you were probably just taking whatever comes or whatever race you can get into because that's usually the battle for me anyway. It's just to even get a chance to race.
It's
Um,
crazy. It's crazy. Like start of the season, perspective how it changes over the course of just a few months as well. Because start the season, this is almost like that race of Philly you did the other day is almost like bread and butter, right? Yep, nice international field, world tour event. Let's go try and compete for the win. But then after the Olympics, it's like that feels like a Sunday league game.
yeah, yeah, especially because it's probably just there was just no one there. It's just the weather was horrible. Um, And then I suppose the added in factor, like since May, once I got on the circuit, I was like, right, like I need to make this Olympics. So like every race for me was like, I need to win every race because I knew I wasn't getting into the kind of top races or even like I was getting into bronze at most. So I was like, I need to win and pick up 60 bonus points. So I need to maximize that. But I suppose after the Olympics, when that's kind of taken away, you're kind of like, not where's the motivation, but you're just like, oh, I can't bring myself to do this because it's just so mentally draining. It was so mentally draining going into every race, going like I have to win this. Not that you wouldn't anyway, but like there was just that added bonus that like if I'm not in a race that's picking up loads of points, well then I need to maximize it, and the only way to do that is to win at least. And obviously run somewhat quick.
I think just before we move on, Jakob, like we're talking about, that Olympic come down and stuff, and we've just seen what Jakob's done. I'm sure you've seen it as well, man. And it's like, is that a part of your game going forward that you will look to work on, or is that a part of the game you're just like, "Do you know what? I never need to." And actually, in future years, they're going to try and end it on a world championships, aren't they? But that ability to kind of have the come downs, but then still perform. Do you think you will put value on that, or do you reckon you're always going to be like, nope, championship performer, I don't care what comes after?
Yeah, I was actually was planning on saying that to John that it was annoying me that I was like, why is there other people kind of still running well and I just died there the last day. But then at the end of the day, I'd rather have the stinker after the championships. And like at the end of the day, everyone's looking at the championships like, Jakob say obviously he was doing something like that, but he's also like, how much money is he getting to just turn up with me? I would run quick if I was being offered, I don't know how much money to just. But I feel there's a bit of bonus in that. Like I'm probably losing money going to the race. So um I think like I'm always going to be like a championship performer. At the end of the day, like that's where it actually matters. Like, yeah, fast times are cool, and I want to run some quick times as well. But I think it really should. At the end of the day, it is a championship sport. So I don't see um why you would be looking to be still fresh after. I think you finish the year, you look back, you're going to look at like where did I finish, where it actually mattered, and luckily I think I did actually perform where it mattered. Um, so I think I probably will look forward to that next year. All going well, I make the worlds that I can just look to peak there because I kind of found out this year that I think I got the peak right, and you very much very much went down after. So, but I'll pick myself up obviously for my last race. So
Yeah, talking of getting it right, mate. Obviously, PB'd in the semi 3:33 after having to run that repechage round as well. So I'm sure we'll kind of talk about that as well. But is that kind of everything you can hope for? Is PB and when it really matters?
yeah, I think I was kind of a mixed bag kind of after the race because I think like it'd be easier if you were like miles off the final.
Mm.
And even though like it wasn't that like I missed out by half a second, but I think actually no, I think it was like 0.6 or 0.7. But like I think it was yeah, like you do get greedy, obviously you always want more. But I think going in, to be fair, my goal going in was to make the semi final because I came in as one of the low, like almost the bottom lad in. So it's like, right, if I make a semi, I'm really outdoing myself. And I feel like that would be a really good result. And then you get to the semi and then you realize, oh, I kind of need to make, I'm going to try and make the final. And then you can kind of see it there just as you're like 50, 60 to go. And you can literally see the sixth spot and you're like, he's only like 2 strides ahead of me. Um, so it is a bit annoying. But then when you kind of look back, you're like, well, overall, like I got good publicity from winning that extra round. Um, it kind of showed me that like the guys you're watching on TV are like they're actually no different here. Like I beat loads of them who are like way faster than me on paper. Um, and like they're not going to scare me in the future because you're like, well, I've done it before, and like they're actually no different to what I'm doing as well. And yeah, if you run a PB, I suppose that I'm trying to take my own advice that if I was talking to someone else, it's like, man, you ran a PB in the best race you've ever been in. So you can't really be too disappointed. It probably the only thing that did disappoint me about the PB is that it was 0.1 off the world standard, which that would have been lovely for next year. But that's been a theme of my season. I missed the Euro standard by 0.1 about 4 times. So that tends to always happen. But it worked out all right in the end, obviously.
Did indeed, and yeah, you were someone who this is going to be interesting because you were someone who like you said, the rep charge took the win there. You beat some good scalps, you beat Habs, you beat some fast guys, and you got the publicity for it. Going into the champs, were you and John, were you guys like, what was your thoughts about the rep charge? Were you kind of planning for it? Were you planning for the fact that you were probably going to have to be a part of it, or obviously you were hoping you weren't, but yeah, did you discuss it?
Not really, actually. Well, not at all, actually. I think I've John we're very much of the attitude as in like, oh, I don't want to run that. Like he kind of said, like if we have to run that, we'll deal with it at the time. So, but I suppose you go into the race obviously believing that like, oh, I think you need to make this top six, so it would just save so much energy, obviously. But like we always do, I remember talking about it in April, being like, I wonder will anyone like really take the piss and kind of jog it around and save the legs. But I literally don't think anyone in the races at all did that from the gun. They all did it for at least half the race or not more, saying I'm going to try and make the semi. But no, I don't think it's a good attitude to go in with. I think you're kind of almost setting yourself up to fail. And if you're running in front of that many fans and you worked your ass off for how long to make it there, I think it would be ridiculous to go in thinking that's fine, we'll just save ourselves for tomorrow straight off the bat. But I know for me personally, I knew at like 200, maybe like 150 to go, I was like, I'm not going to get top six. Might get top seven, top eight, but like at the end of the day, I'm still going to be on the line tomorrow morning. So I kind of like, you're kind of half jogging it in. Like, you're not really busting a gut the last 100 or so. You're kind of like, I'm just gonna kick it in, but not extra hard here, and kind of save that little bit. And then at that stage, then I was like, right, well, then I have to do it. But I definitely never went in with the attitude of like, that's a possibility. But probably towards the end of the race, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna be running it now.
I think this is your mentality going into the repechage rounds. How do you reckon it compared to others? Because I think there were two types of people. There were those who were shocked and disappointed that they had to, run that race because they would have expected to qualify straight out of the heat. But then there was someone like yourself, like you said, you're almost processing that last 150, that last 100, and you go into the repechage and you're like, you fired up and you take your opportunity and you take the win there. Those who may be coming disappointed and then have another kind of subpar performance.
Yeah, I just think the first race, as our like interview guy after the race, and I said I was almost like a deer in the headlights. I'd never ran in front of a crowd like this. I'd never ran against caliber of guys like that. I've zero serious senior experience. So like there probably was an added bonus to that. And I think I probably played a bit too cute and saying let's try and sneak that sixth spot, which we kind of learned quickly after the race. Straight away, John was like, forget what we just said yesterday. Just race the exact same way you've been doing all season. And then I just went in as like, right, I'm just going to win it, like regardless if I have to, if it makes me run really fast. Never mind thinking about the semi. I was like, I'm just going to race it the exact same way, race it to win, not third place, playing a queue. And I probably just made an effort of like trying not to be too uptight. I was so probably uptight going into the first round, and I don't know, I had about 10 people tell me how nervous I looked, which I was like, oh, well, that's not great. If I'm, but I just went in just it's kind of the cliche of like it's just another race, but like just race it to win. And I just had that extra experience of last or the day before being like, okay, I've raced them. They're not that much different to me. Like, and then you'll have some of the heavy hitters out. But then I suppose I remember looking there and going, damn, some of the guys that I thought would be through straight away didn't get through. So I was like, okay, it's actually gonna be harder than I think. Not that it would be easy, but yeah, I just went in and I just felt like about 10 stone lighter running around. It's like I felt great. Like it just felt like, and then you're just enjoying the buzz of the crowd. And then I knew going down the back straight, it's like, oh yes, I'm definitely gonna win unless someone pulls out something massive here. But yeah, just treating it like another race, and it worked out in my favor, obviously.
Mm. Yeah, obviously on this occasion worked out in your favor. What about kind of the mood, I guess, around the village, also maybe in the cool room as well, like towards these repechage rounds? Because I know on kind of social media, like we ourselves on the podcast, like I think people are quite critical of them as an addition.
Yeah, I think I did another interview about it, and it's like it's hard for me to be too critical because I'm like, well, man, if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be in the semi. But my kind of attitude on it was, well, you knew the rules going in. If you took the reptage round out and made a top 8 instead of top 6, well, then I think it would have completely changed the landscape of the first round. You would have had myself and other guys behind me. I know Osama as well. I'm pretty sure he kind of half jogged it in towards the end as well and saved it. But like it would have changed the landscape because you're like, okay, well, I'm going to bust the goat right to the line. And I don't know. I knew, everyone knew the rules going in. It's like, if you don't get it, you're going to have the reptage round. So there's no point kind of crying that there is that round, because if you didn't get the top 6, you're getting another chance. And in my eyes, it's giving you another chance to get in. And it's kind of a great storyline. If someone, I know no one made the final from it, but it would have been a great storyline if someone did. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think for someone like me, it was great because I got the experience on the first day, and it wasn't like, okay, well, that's me now for 4 years. I have to wait. So I thought it was great. And I think it's easy for some people to say it who are like, I don't know, like medal hopes, who are like, they're pretty much not guaranteed to get through, but like they're going to cruise through. It's like easy for them to say. But I think if you're someone who's kind of on the bubble, I think it's great. And it's good for the crowd. They get another race. I feel like the crowd got another good race out of it. And for me, I left the championship like way better position than I did if I had just been knocked out in the first round. So selfishly, I'm going to be like, I think it was good. I can't say it was that bad. If you disagree that much about it, well then make it your business and get in on the first way. That's the only way I would say about it.
It's an interesting take. It's a good take as well. And I think that's why World Athletics, they've added it to the program, haven't they? I think talking about moods around the repechage, I want to know what the mood was like throughout the rounds. Obviously, you were in 3 different call rooms on 3 back-to-back days. The first one you said you're really nervous for, and then you're a lot more relaxed for the repechage, and kind of like, what about everyone else and your kind of feeling and vibes of that call-up room and the warm-up track as it got closer to kind of the big one, the final, the nitty-gritty?
Yeah, I think definitely like when you get to the semi, it's like very much like it's just like everyone's just like no one's talking. There's no talk. Everyone's just like in this tiny call room, and it's like everyone's almost just like shaking each other up. Everyone's just looking at each other, and like there's nowhere else to look. But you look back and you're like, that is sick. Like you're running against like the best of the best, and you're looking at like, I think it was Chariot in my race, and you're just like looking at it, it's like, this is mad. Like I was watching you for years, and now I'm just sitting beside you in the call room. But I think it's very tense. Luckily, I kind of went with the attitude. I was like, well, no one's looking at me. Like, definitely, I put my money at. No one knew who I was. I was like, I'm in bonus territory now, so I'd like, let's just try and play that to my advantage, because whether I just miss out or I make it, like it's going to be obviously disappointing, but like for the vast majority of the people, say from Ireland, they wouldn't probably expect me to make the final anyway. So I was in bonus territory. I think being in there on paper anyway, I was definitely in bonus territory. So I was just kind of lapping it up. I was like, just use that to my advantage that no one's looking at me, and um, I'm just gonna go with the flow and just see what race plays out, and yeah, and just kind of use that kind of not as much pressure as probably the other top lads have to my advantage. So
3 races in 3 days. How did the legs feel going into that last one?
I thought they'd be a lot worse. I
Mm.
felt warming up and it's like, oh, I'm probably going to feel horror here, but I was actually fine. Like, I think it's just like you're like, this is an Olympic semi-final. Like, it's just the buzz and just the crowd. It almost just carries you around. Now, in fairness, you're kind of like the race. The first 800 goes by so fast. Like, you can't hear anyone's breathing. You can't hear feet. You can't hear anything. So it's almost just like dragging you around, and you're just like, it's just a blur everywhere. So you're like, all of a sudden, the first 800 I found in every round just went by like a flash. And then it was only probably until about 500 to go. I was like, I'm feeling how I would feel on the back straight in a normal race, and we still have about 500 to go. And it just felt like I was just sprinting at that point. And then once I did actually, I probably said it was like a stride or two off, and I was like, I'm not getting dropped. And I kind of just fought for my life on the back straight. And then I got back on. I was like, damn, it's actually not going away. And then coming around like 150, I was like, okay, it's still not gone away. I was like, the sixth guy is right there. It's like, if they can just somehow not pick it up and I pick it up, I'm going to catch him. But it was only when I just came off the last 100 to go, went to go around Meslick, and it's like he started pushing as well. And it's like a balloon just being deflated. Just had absolutely nothing, which I usually would. My last 100 is always really good. And there was just nothing. It's only then I discovered, oh, I'm running on fumes now, like I'm blowing, and there's nothing coming out. So it was only probably yeah, the last like 400 of the race, I was like, okay, I can starting to feel like there's no pop in my leg, and you're just like fighting just to keep up. But then once you get back into it, you're okay. But yeah, you do notice it on that last 150 when everyone's starting to like really kick it into top gear. My top gear was just not really there. Purely just from yesterday's round, the day before's round. So
I think something that would be cool to talk about as well, after the Olympics, you've broken that down so well, but is that transition from like a 337, 338 guy down to what you are now. Obviously, you haven't done it in a year, it's been a couple years, but I think it's one of the hardest transitions in the sport. I'm not sure if you agree, but we seem to have, there's a lot of guys who can get in and around 340 and maybe just dip below, but then like, what did you have to do to really make that conscious effort to kind of get to where you are now? Because I think not only is there a difference in training setup that needs to be made, but the training needs to be a lot more specific. And it's a lot harder to do, especially with full-time work, etc. So yeah, intrigued after NCAs and your collegiate season. How'd you kind of go about doing that?
for me, it wasn't that like I obviously I did change coach, change training setup last like October, November, but like it's hard. I always try and think like what was the kind of difference, but for me it was just to get the opportunity to get into a race that was actually being paced at those times. That was my problem last summer and every summer the last 2 years. It's just I could never get into a race um that was just that was going at them paces. I was winning like nearly every race, but they were just like BMCs or just races that are just not going at those speeds. So I just wanted someone to give me an opportunity, and I just couldn't get into any race. No agent would take me. And anyone that did express any interest would just kind of mess me around, like just didn't really actually care. So I don't think it's hard to know. There has been a big difference in training. It's definitely a lot harder than it was with John, but it was just I think it was just an added bonus of like I was just getting a few breaks in terms of getting into a few races, proving myself a little bit more, and just yeah, I don't. There is an added bit of the training as well. Like I've been definitely doing stuff that I've never done before, and I never thought I could do in training. But I think it was just keeping going with training and just obviously listen to John whatever we were doing in training, and then just whenever you get a break, eventually it happened the week before the window closed. It was just like take the opportunity. But my biggest problem, and it probably a lot of guys, is that there's probably guys running 338, 337 even, and they can probably run 334, 335 if they're put in the race. And it's the same reason now. I'm ran 333, but I know I can run 331 if I was put in the Diamond League. But that's the kind of catch 22. It's like, yeah, a lot of people are probably in that same bracket, but I think it's just the quality of the race that is almost the difference. It's just like someone to just give you a break, which that's the hardest part, I think, nearly.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned, I guess, the importance of having a good agent there. Like, who you signed with at the moment? Has that kind of helped this season?
Yeah, definitely. I signed with Wazerman, who's Adam Phillips, back in November. He was like pretty much the only one really that was expressed interest and definitely wanted to sign and help me out. Like, no, there's so many that just didn't want to know me or said they'd help and and then just would ignore your texts for months. And I kind of look back now and I can see a lot of some of the guys on their books, and I'm like, well, there you go. I'm 2-3 seconds faster than them, and I'm Olympic semi-finalist. So I'm kind of like, you'd love to be kind of like, well, do you regret it now? But like, look, I was super lucky that Adam had some spots, and he's been great since. He's got me into without his help, I wouldn't have got into a few of the big meets I got into just before the Olympics. So um, that's also a big difference. If you're unless you're running crazy times, unless you have an agent fighting for you to get into a race, you're really on the back foot starting off.
Crazy. I mean, it's clear that, I mean, do you think anyone could survive without an agent sort of going through the kind of, I guess, gradual progression that most people go through?
No, not at all. Like if you're like you can get to like you can get it run races the odd time in those kind of
Mm.
Flanders Cup and Belgium or BMCs that turn out to be pretty decent sometimes. But when you're trying to run the really fast times, like you just don't get a reply back. Well, it depends who it is. Like obviously if you had a very fast time in your belt, you're probably fine. But for me, who was just kind of like scraping in and kind of just really chancing my luck, I never got a reply back. So I feel like without one, you're never going to stand a chance. Like, which is kind of unfair because there's so many guys who are good enough, but like just getting an agent who will work for you and actually cares about you is probably another thing.
This is mad. And how long was that period you were searching for an agent? Because I guess the problem is if an agent has 1,500 guys on their books, having 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there starts to be a clash of interest. Who you're gonna give the lane to, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, how long was that period you were searching?
Well, I knew I was finishing in the NCAA, I suppose, in June.
Mm.
So I talked to like one or two, and I said, right, I'm going to be home the June 15th. So I knew the exact days. Like, I'll take if you can help me out. And I would say, I suppose, from May until November,
Mm.
like,
Wow.
like just so many, like, and just some were nice enough to just say like no, like kind of exactly what you said, conflict of interest. Um, but then some just were just like, oh, yeah, I'd love to help you out, and they don't actually help you out. So, but I knew
Make
I
it
had
worse.
frustrating because I was kind of showing them like here, like look what I've ran. And I suppose you're probably trying not to mention like, oh, I kind of ran that off like a few months of running because I was injured for so long. But you're kind of hoping that they'll just take a chance. And I suppose you know yourself. I know myself. It's like I know I can run the times that you're saying that I need to run. Like I was being quoted like you need to run at least 335. It's like yeah, I know I can run that if you just get me in a race. But I suppose a lot of people are probably saying that as well. But
Mm.
yeah, it was just a long process, and you're just kind of questioning like, why am I bothering? Like, there was so many times last year, I was like, why am I bothering? Like, will I just pack this in? Because it's just like this is getting annoying now because I'm seeing guys who I beat in a championship race every day of the week, and they're on the circuit every week racing good races, and you're just like, what is the point? You're just sitting on the sidelines the whole time. So, um, yeah, you're just kind of weathering the storm and just hoping someone will take the chance, and luckily, Adam did.
Mm. Yeah, we mentioned kind of an Olympic come down earlier. I guess for athletes kind of at the level you were, is there almost like an NCAA come down as well? You go from being in the, I guess outside of professional athletics, it's the best kind of scene in the world, and you've got universities who are fighting to get you into good races, and obviously you've got the championships themselves.
Yeah, I think my American experience was a bit different, I suppose, because I don't know why it was. I swear there was just something in the war. I just kept getting injured like um all the time. But you're kind of guaranteed if once you've ran kind of a half decent time, like a 3:38, 3:37, which I did when I come home in the summer, like you pretty much get into any of the meets you want. Like getting into the fast race is pretty easy. And I was kind of very much like I wasn't too set on always running the fast time. As like at the end of the day, I just need to get to regionals at the end of May, make it through the rounds and get to the championship. So like going back to what you said earlier, I was always just thinking of the championship. So getting into the quickest races in America wasn't really like that much priority. I just needed to be in good shape going into the championships. But yeah, it's certainly a lot easier when you're in the NCAA because you don't have to think everything's done for you. So
Mm.
once you have to try, unless you've got a contract straight off the bat, you're kind of in no man's land, but you kind of have to deal with then.
And that move after then, you luckily managed to get good setup. You started working with John Big. How the relationship come about? Again, you talk about trying to work with agents. Was it difficult to try to decide who to kind of work with from a coaching perspective as well?
Yeah, it was a bit of a random one. I felt like I just needed to change from my coach. He's from my club who I was with for I think about 7 or 8 years, and there was nothing like there was no. We were still great. We're still in touch all the time, and like there was no like it was just a purely I needed to change of scenery. It was just like doing the same training for like years and years, which was obviously working, but I just felt like I just couldn't mentally do it. I was sick. I could pretty much predict what we were going to do all the time. And that just gets tiring and running the same places all the time. It was just draining after a while. So yeah, the whole John thing came about. I was just to and fro and what I was going to do. And it was a friend of my uncle's who just happened to just say, oh, I know one of the good distance coaches here in the UK, even though I don't think he actually ended up knowing him when I actually asked John. But I had a feeling it was going to be John because I only knew maybe like one or two just from Instagram. And then luckily one of them was John. And yeah, I was on holidays and we just had a call. And I know you kind of have a good idea pretty straight away whether if this is going to work or not. John's just pure sound and just normal. Like it's just like just got on really well. And then I went over for a kind of I don't know how long it was, maybe just under a week to just see how things were going. And I knew straight away, I was like, this is where I kind of need to be. I kind of want to be somewhere where I'm not the best guy, which I have been for years in my previous setups. And I kind of being around people who are better than me. And I think only good things can come from being around, guys and girls who are just way better than me on paper and way more experienced. So, and I knew obviously who John had been coached, who had he coached in the past and who he's coaching now. So I was like, it's a bit of a no-brainer, and I was excited for a change. I think it's different when I was never really kind of unsure. I was like, oh, look who he's coached and look what they've ran. Like he knows what he's doing, and yeah, it's been paying off since.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of some of those athletes, what's it like kind of training with the likes of Giles?
Yeah, Elliot's just an animal really to train with. You're in your head. We're doing the session, and I might have some splits in my head what we're probably going to do, and his is always just that little bit faster. But no, everyone, Elliot, Dan, Gemma, great, all of them have Grace. Everyone has been great since I came in. They've just been super open, really helpful. Like there was no like, if anything, I hope they just thought as another person to train with. I obviously come from probably a bit more of a 5K background, so I'm adding that element to the training. But no, just really super honest with me. If they see something that you shouldn't do or you can't be doing, Elliot is certainly someone who's going to tell you. But I kind of like that. I kind of like the kind of being on your ass about something. But they've just been really helpful. Like just since day one when we went on camp as well in Potch, just open to any questions I have. Always helpful if anything's popping up regarding outside running or anything we're doing in training. They're just being really, really helpful, and I hope obviously I help them somewhat in training as well. So no, it's been definitely a move it's paid off, and I'm delighted to be a part of the group. So
Are you based down in Brighton? Have you moved there, or do you do your training Do your training in Ireland still, and then just go down every now and again, go on camps with them.
Yeah, I've been going. I just went on a camp. We went on the April camp, and then it wasn't until like November that I fully committed to John, and they were already in touch. And I also was going to do a bit of cross country, so I just kind of stayed. And then I always did plan, but it's just like financially, I just couldn't kind of sort it out because I was like, I don't have a contract, or my Sport Ireland funding is basically peanuts. So like I was like, until I can kind of get that sorted, I'm hoping now off the back of this season and my funding will go up next year that I can kind of move over. But something just kept happening. I feel like because I was traveling all the time with the indoors, so I couldn't really fit it in then. And then after our indoor or at the, I was going to thinking, oh, maybe I'll try and find a job and I'll move over before the outdoor season. But then I broke my wrist quite bad in our indoor championships. So that just delayed that. I kind of had to figure that out for 6 weeks. And then once we went on the camp, came back, I felt like I was on the road like every weekend. So I just actually couldn't fit in time to go over. I went over last week for a bit of training, but like, I'm hoping this year going forward that I can find a place and an income to make that possible.
You mentioned being on the road a lot. Like you are someone that kind of races on the circuit a fair bit. Is this something that you've always done or you like to do, or is this something that John's kind of suggested as well?
I think it was more like because I knew I was like, okay, somebody's racing going and getting in. We're not going to run under 3:33 standard. Like it's like it's just you're just not like so. I kind of said, right, I need to get in on a rank. I need to kind of think of rankings for the start of the season anyway. Until I'm in a race that's going for the standard. So I think it was more. I think it was more both. John, I don't think John ever kind of says like, no, like we're not racing for a while. I think racing's good for me anyway. It keeps me sharp. I think like just does not. I don't really like the idea of just training for months after months and then barely racing in the summer. It's like I did train for months for how long of the year. So I kind of like racing. It keeps me sharp, and I think there's easy things you can do. Like you can throw in the odd little mini session after a race to kind of keep your aerobic system topped up. And I think a lot of our group quite have raced a lot. Maybe not as much as Elliot as parts of the season, but um, no, I think John's open to racing as much as you want. I think mine mainly was just gathering points for the ranking. That was my only reason. Which looking back, it's obviously I don't think it's the most sustainable way because you eventually will run out of steam. But I felt like it just kept me sharp, kept me race sharp for most of the season. So I'd be definitely in favor of probably racing more than less anyway.
I think that's what's impressive though. Like it does obviously get you race sharp, but you know, you were able to get faster and faster and faster and peak at the right time, even though at periods in the summer you were chasing things. You know, chasing standards. I think some athletes find that very difficult, and you can see them by the time they get to the major champs, they are a little bit burnt out.
Yeah, I think I was chasing a lot in May and is it June? I don't know, whenever the European window closed. But then when I didn't make that, it was terrible at the time. I was really disappointed. But then I actually look back and it was a blessing in disguise because I got like 2.5 weeks of training in, which I hadn't got. And so I hadn't got since the start of May. I hadn't got like a block of training in. So like totally thinking back now, going forward, I think a 2 week block in the middle of the season is enough for me to kind of like reset, recharge, get some good sessions in, and then feel like I'm fresh and ready to go again. So I don't think you need to you definitely don't like if you're going to stop racing for a bit of the summer to get to kind of freshen up a bit. For me, anyway, I think 2 weeks is enough now. So, that kind of 2 weeks, and then again did another block into our national championships, and then once the nationals were over, I raced 2 miles, in Ireland, and then again I think I had 2.5 weeks to the first round. So again, that's a good 2.5 week block that I was able to get in. So, I think once you can just factor those in, you can kind of stay on top of your fitness wise and stay race sharp kind of at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, good stuff, man. I think like just before we finish, obviously it was Ireland's most successful Olympic Games ever, right? What was it like to be part of that team? And obviously you mentioned earlier kind of the homecoming you got coming back into the country as well.
Yeah, it was sick. Obviously it was across all the sports. I think we won medals with swimming, rowing, and just I think just even being around those people, just around the house and around at lunch and dinners and stuff like that. It was just sick, and there was just good energy in the house. Every sport we're just being really sound to each other and just chatting away. And everyone's normal and sound like. And then especially when you come home, you feel like you're almost like a celebrity for a week. Like people, like something just. I have found that like one of my neighbors in my estate, she had no idea I was a runner until she saw me on like RTE, like doing an interview. She she just said she used to see me doing sprints up and down the road, and I was obviously just doing strides, but she always just wondered for so long. So I think just being a part of the team, and then I probably I wouldn't I was probably among the few who performed probably the best on the athletic side. So I kind of got a lot of attraction from that online. So I think the Olympics was just good in general. So then everyone was kind of chiming into it. So it was just not. I think I got only positive stuff coming out of it. So just being a part of the team and my name being among the team was only a benefit. So, but it was just it was sick. Just obviously, seeing some of the medals when they came back to the house with it, is class to see. So yeah, I think whatever they're doing, hopefully going to invest more money into Sport Ireland. But money definitely pays and definitely pays off.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think before we finish, I wanted to ask you, biggest wow moment. Did you bump into any celebs in the village, or did you see anyone? Did you go to any parties? What was your biggest kind of wow, that was cool moment?
I'd say like I remember the first night I went to Sullivan's after the semi-final, where pretty much every country kind of went into the Irish bar. I suppose just getting like just noticed and like asked for pictures and like sign and stuff, it just feels weird. You're just like, really, do you actually want to pick? But that you almost feel weird, and just randomers just buying you drinks all night. Like it was just at one stage you're sitting there and there's like 4 Coronas in front of you, and you're like, pretty cool. Like now, even though like from the Olympics, there should be a lot more wow moments than that. But I think just like even just seeing like big names around the village, like I remember seeing Noah Lyles. Well, I didn't actually recognize Noah Lyles because he had an afro, but seeing him and Grant Holloway, obviously Inga Britson and people like that, it's pretty cool just seeing them, and they're just normal. They're just really good at what they do, obviously. But I think probably my wow moment was probably just stepping out on the track, and it's almost like you're being thrown to the wolves in a coliseum, like just like insane, like just that many people at a track meet. It's just something obviously I was completely alien to, but that was probably the best one. Which especially that was one thing John did say was, lap that in when you walk out, and kind of the energy you get from the crowd. Even though everyone says that at races and interviews, but like you definitely do feel the energy, and it definitely gives you a boost. So I would say that was my biggest wow moments from the games.
Yeah. Well, look, mate, congrats on a great season. I'm obviously wishing you all the best for Fifth Ave and the future, but thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much.